Quit the 9 to 5 with Ben Handler, getting you out of the rat race and into a career buying property.
Good everyone, Phil Tarrant here. Welcome to Quit the 9 to 5, how to turn buying property into a career. If you're new to this is the second episode of this new podcast series that we are putting together in conjunction with Ben Handler from Buyers Agent Institute. Ben's back in the studio to help me navigate this crazy, complicated world of transitioning your passion of buying property into a career. How you going, Ben? Thanks for coming back.
It's good to be back here, Phil. Thanks for having me again, and I'm really excited to dive into episode 2. But
we're not alone. We've got someone in the studio to help us chat through this journey of buying property into a career in property. Trent Iverson. We've managed to persuade him to come in and share his journey, warts and all, about becoming a buyer's agent and how he's gone about doing that and what he hopes to become and will become, but also some of the challenges and pain points he's had along the way to get there. How you going, Trent? Thanks for coming in, mate.
Hey, Phil. Hey, Ben. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I spoke to you really quickly before we come on air, and I have no concerns that you're not going to be able to talk. So
no, we'll be fine.
We're all right. We're in safe hands.
Absolutely. No, we're good. We're all good.
So is it good to be on the show?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, look, I really appreciate the opportunity. It's obviously the podcast is about, I guess, transitioning from one career to another. So to get the opportunity to talk to you, Phil, and Ben's been there for the long journey for me. So it's great. Thank you.
That's cool. So the Buyers Agent Institute, and this is Ben's business. Created how long ago now?
September last year.
So 9 or so months into it, on the basis of just highlighting the opportunity for people to potentially choose being a buyer's agent as a potential career. And you've had a lot of students go through it so far, which is cool. What I remember about our original chat, episode 1 of Quit the 9 to 5, Ben, was we spoke more about the challenges of being a buyer's agent as a career, rather than doing the job of being a buyer's agent and delivering, property investment advice stuff. And we'll get to that at some point. But there's a lot of challenges in being a buyer's agent, that being that you need to find people to be a buyer's agent for. And your story with Cohen Handler, which you set up some time ago, I think you sort of purchased in excess of like $3 billion in property over that period of time. You know how hard it is to set up a buyer's agent. And that's what people are learning today through the Buyers Agent Institute. That's pretty much right, isn't it?
Correct, yeah. It's not easy.
So in terms of a student, how's Trent been? Is he being one of your more mediocre students, or is he your rising star?
No, Trent's definitely been a standout. I mean, he joined last year, and he's really executed quick. I mean, it's been very challenging, yet it's also been very rewarding for Trent. He's obviously started his own business now called Trent Iverson. He's up and running. He's got clients. He's moving. I think he's got a healthy mix of clients between resi and commercial. So, I mean, things are going good for him.
I'm going to ask him that question. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, look, it's going well. It's obviously had its challenges as any new career would present, but also starting business from scratch. That's obviously not for the faint-hearted, but I think those of us with a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, we get through that. But look, having the Buyers Agent Institute behind me in those early days, that it really set me up for a good beginning.
So what's the most important thing you learned at the Buyers Agent Institute that's helping you excel in your job or your career today? Yeah,
look, it's a good question, Phil. I think, there's a number of answers for that. I think I've been buying and selling property on a personal level for a long time. So I guess the actual process and the thought process behind and the physical process behind buying and selling property isn't necessarily new to me, but making a career from that, transitioning from something that's more or less an interest into a career, it's getting to know the finer details, which is, how we actually locate customers. We can all, start up a nice website, get a beautiful brand, but how do I get customers into my pipeline? How do I prospect? How do we find those clients and then ultimately convert those clients? And that's where I turned to the Buyers Agent Institute to, I guess, with Ben's experience of nearly 10 years in the industry, it enabled me, I guess, to get behind those lines and get those finer details.
So we have a lot of buyers agents who tune in to our podcast, but we also have a lot of people who are passionate property investors who are probably thinking about life after the inverted commas crappy job that they're doing right now, and how this might be something that they can move into. What's the hardest part about finding people to be a buyer's agent for?
Look, I think probably the hardest part about finding customers for me is potentially being unknown. It's a matter of how I've been able to get my brand out there. Fortunately for me, based on my previous life, I've come with a very loyal network of clients who've been extremely supportive in those early days. But I've also got to look at things like my social media, how I'm marketing my website. And I think one of the most important things is just talking to people, getting out and about. People know people, people refer you. I think referrals are more valuable than money, I believe.
And what do you like most about being a buyer's agent?
Oh, look, I think being able to help people. In my previous companies, I've delivered service. I enjoy selling service. It's kind of what I do well. And I think as being a buyer's agent, you're taking away something that for whatever reason people may find daunting. They might find it difficult. They may simply just not understand the process. And I think as being now a very well-educated buyer's agent, I can actually help them through that process. So it's extremely rewarding.
Is this sort of common themes you hear with your students? Are you students, I guess you call your, if you go through the buyer's agent, students?
Yeah, students.
It's okay. Student to me means learning, and learning is something that you do. So I think students are good.
Students, and then when you finish, graduate.
You're graduate.
Yeah.
So is this sort of common themes from your students you see?
Yeah, it's very mixed. I mean, obviously Trent comes with a background in business. He's an entrepreneur, so I think he can move up and down through those challenges. But I guess everyone's facing similar style of issues. Some people are moving quicker than others. But I guess it's a bit like a roller coaster, always up and down.
So you come from a business background. The first time I think ever in the history of me doing podcasts, I actually have some notes in front of me. So I apologise for everyone. So I'm not going to look at them. But I did notice one thing though, which caught my interest. It said that you founded and sold a successful pet management business.
Yeah, it's
what's a pet management business?
Phil, let's just say
I manage my pet. And I've got to take it out for a poo every night.
And that's about as good as it is.
Is it?
Look, I think pet management's a very fancy name for a dog walking company.
Okay.
Look, in 2009, set up a great dog walking company that we started off with 2 dogs, ended up walking close to 600 dogs a week. So it's obviously not for the faint-hearted, but I saw an opportunity there where people needed a service. People needed someone to do something that they necessarily weren't capable of doing or didn't want to do. And we came along, we I guess, built a very successful company around that. So the transition for me then to buyer's agency isn't too dissimilar. I'm not chasing dogs around a park anymore. I'm getting too old to do that. But ultimately, I'm able to, assist people in doing something that they may find daunting or difficult, and to be able to make a career out of that is fantastic.
So, what's the biggest mistake you made in your pet management business that you hope not to make in your buyer's agency business?
That is obviously scalability, but I still wanted to be able to be in a career where I have absolute passion. You wouldn't walk 600 dogs a week if you didn't have passion for dogs, and I wouldn't be out there buying houses if I didn't have a passion for property. So I think for me to then start up my own business, it has to be a business that I can grow from the ground up and still have a passion for what I do day in, day out.
So this is a bit of a double-barrel question. Do you think that just because you enjoyed buying property as a property investor means that you can be a good buyer's agent? I'll let you answer that first before I ask the second question.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And it is a great question. And I've touched on it before, where should we, just because you have a passion for property, does that necessarily make you a good buyer's agent? I think no. I think you have to have a love for people, and you have to have a genuine desire to help people who have an issue, and albeit we get compensated for that, and that's essentially one of the reasons why we go into business. But I think most importantly, you've got to have the personality and a desire to help people, because even in the first couple of months of my business, people do present challenges, and they're expecting a lot of you. They're paying a fee for your service. So I think you do have to have a genuine passion to help people. I think it's vitally important, as well as the property, of course.
So the second part of that question then, why have you chosen to set up your own buyer's agency firm rather than joining an established buyer's agent. And some very good buyer's agents around the nation now.
Yeah, there's excellent buyer's agents, and I think that's probably what initially attracted me to Ben and at the time Cohen Handler was the success of a lot of these people. Now, as Ben knows, I originally did consider working for some other buyer's agents firms, which would have given me, a lot of inside knowledge. However, being able to get behind those enemy lines as such and do the Buyer's Agent Institute course, it actually gave me a lot of confidence that not arrogance, but confidence that I can potentially, with the entrepreneurial spirit that I have with my previous companies, get out there and give it a good shot. Also, as I mentioned earlier, I think reputation is more valuable than money. And I think with my past clients, I've got a pretty good reputation and they're now backing me with their support, which is fantastic.
So you're leaning on the people who used to walk their dogs to potentially...
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I imagine people who can afford a dog walker probably got a few bucks, right?
Yeah, and look, I don't necessarily think that it all comes down to money, but it's a very, very good point. And look, given the areas that I was servicing with the dog walking, yes, I have developed a great network of people who can afford it. But, I think people, just in my first couple of clients, people are approaching us for different reasons other than I've got a lot of money and not a lot of time. And that's been a real eye-opener for me. It's something that I didn't expect when I first started out.
Tell me about your first day. So you've gone to wherever you've gone to start work, and hopefully it was at the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, so you can get yourself mentally prepared for it. But chat me through that first day. What did you do?
Well, correct. It was gym. It was a spin class, and followed by yoga. It does actually set me up for a great day. But look, I think for me, one of the biggest learning curves when I turned those lights on for the first time was time management, particularly when you do have a couple of clients on the go. Your days can slip away from you very, very quickly. So it's a matter of, scheduling that day, allocating them a specific amount of time to work on each client, then filling in, out for inspections and agreements and working on social media. So your days are very full. They're very, very busy. It's not quit the 9 to 5 just yet, because in those early days, it's 7 in the morning until 9 at night, but worth every minute.
So tell me about your perfect week. Well, your buyer's agent, you probably work on a Saturday, right?
Correct.
So let's say Monday to Saturday. What does your week look like, and how do you structure your time?
Yeah, look, Mondays for me are generally following up with agents from inspections from the weekend. That's a big one. Whether I have clients interested in a property or not, I always like to touch base with an agent if they haven't already called me. Then I pretty much set out my entire week in terms of inspections based on my clients' needs. I'll touch base with a lot of agents, particularly looking for off-market properties. That's something that we can add significant value to my clients is sourcing these off-market properties. So there's a lot of phone calls to agents. But I find networking for me is a big one, talking to mortgage brokers, talking to agents, talking to other buyers agents as well. I mean, the industry out there, people aren't shy of picking up the phone and saying hello. It's not cutthroat, or not as cutthroat as, say, perhaps a sales agent may be. People are happy to get on the phone and share their stories, so we do help each other out. So yeah, a lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls, social media, updating the website, writing blogs. It's good fun.
What's been the thing that's thrown you the most from what your expectations were before you started working as a buyer's agent to the reality of being a buyer's agent?
I think the sales process, filling the pipeline. We all would love to think that we turn those lights on and the phone starts to ring, but it doesn't. Working alone initially, it can be a little bit daunting, but getting out there and the hardest thing is getting that phone to ring, and that's building a brand awareness. Then when that phone does ring, the most important thing is you've got 1, maybe 2 shots, if you're lucky, to convert a client, a potential client into a customer. So, and again, I go back to the point where the Buyer's Agents Institute filled in those little gaps for me. I know how to buy homes. I know how to sell homes. That wasn't the issue, but the issue was, when I'm in front of a client, is how I can pretty much guarantee that client is going to become a great fan of Harris Iverson Buyers Agents, and it's those little things that have been challenging, but I've drawn back on that experience through the BAI.
And talk me through the your mental narrative that goes on when day's not working out, you didn't get some deal over the line, you got some customer that wants you to be moved faster, or whatever the litany of challenges you're going to have as a buyer's agent. How do you mentally process that and move forward?
Look, I think that's where the yoga helps. It kind of keeps you very, very level-headed. But look, I think they're challenges that we all face in any business. I know from if I have scheduled a certain amount of time of my day for prospecting, I know if I come up against 5 or 6 no sorries, no sorry, no thanks, it can be a little heartbreaking. So I think with those type of things, I schedule my time for prospecting. Some days are good, some days aren't so good, and then I move on to another project, which might move on to social media. We might move on to, I might even just go out for a coffee with a couple of agents, just to have a bit of a chat as to what's going on, to bring something positive back into the day. But look, overall, in the few months that we've been trading, I haven't really had that many days where I've gotten to the end of the day and thought, that was hard work. It hasn't been that case for me.
How many hours are you working a week?
Well, it's 7 days a week. Yeah. There's no question about that. I'd say probably at the moment 8 to 9 consistently every day. I do make sure that I get that exercise in the morning, and then come 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, it's shut down time. So
are you a single guy? You got a family?
No, I've got a partner.
Okay.
Yeah. So and so that kind of helps. That shares the load. When he comes home, you can kind of say, well, these are the trials of my day.
Do you download on him?
No, look. He's actually very, very good in terms of he'll actually push me to say, hey, you know what? How is your day? Because look, he knows I'm back in the office there grinding away on that phone. He knows that can be challenging, and it's great to have that. But look, I think if people don't have a partner, find somebody, a friend, a mentor that they can just have that bit of download, as you say, Phil. It's really important.
So you're going to make it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Why are you going to make it?
Oh, look, I think, and Ben knows this, I've had this razor-sharp focus on exactly where my business is going to be. I don't necessarily want my business to be huge. Another great book by Burlingham's Small Giants, and it's all about a company that is great as opposed to necessarily big. It was like that in my past companies. We don't necessarily have to be big to deliver amazing service, and that's where my focus has always been. I've got a great business plan, and I've got good people around me in Ben. I've got great accountants, great advisors that even my brother with social media, he keeps me on track. So everything's kind of just nicely I guess road mapped out, but it never always goes that way, and you've got to be agile enough to dodge those curveballs.
So let's chat about this roadmap then, and we're running out of time, but I think it's an important point. You're working 7 days a week at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it sounds to me that you want a lifestyle business as much as a really fulfilling professional career as well. And this is your point, your couple of points that you've made. Well, what's the end goal in this? You don't want to be working 7 days a week forever.
No.
So, because you don't want to get massive.
Correct.
But you want to, so you crystallise that strategy for me.
Yes, spot on. And look, Phil, it's a good question, because I came across this scenario in we'll call it pet management career, where I found that if you don't have a very clear roadmap as to where you're going, your business can go on these little growth spurts. And I used to call them wobble points, where your business would grow very, very quickly, and then suddenly you would wobble because you weren't ready, whether that be with infrastructure or whatever it may be, to accommodate that. So with this business, ultimately, I want to, again, not necessarily be big, but just grow slowly, service my clients, which is what I've come from. And look, I think at the end of the day, we will all exit a business in some way, shape or form, whether it's in a box or by choice. And I think my legacy will be lifestyle, absolutely, but I'm still very much hands-on. Will I be working 7 days a week in the future? Absolutely not. But I think in these early days, it's like moving a boulder. You get the boulder moving, and it ticks along quite well. So in those early days, I've got to give it that hard push, and that's where I'm at the moment. But enjoying every day. It's not difficult for me to come to work.
So easy to get up in the morning.
Absolutely.
And get to work
yeah, it's great.
By the way, Ben Handler's still here in the studio. Yeah.
Sorry, Ben.
I'm still here, just listening.
Yeah. Quick question for you, Ben. Just reflecting on what Trent has spoken about, if you were going to give him some really frank, honest feedback, having worked in this space for quite some time and seen a lot of buyers agents sort of be successful, what areas do you think he needs to improve, and what would you say keep doing this particular thing?
Definitely the networking. I mean, Trent talked about just getting in front of people, and I think that's what this game's about, whether it's real estate agents, mortgage brokers, financial planners, conveyancers, relationship managers at banks, friends, family, whatever it is, just getting in front of people, having a chat, learning about their property objectives, understanding about their friends' property objectives, really just trying to dive into other people's networks. I mean, that's just mission critical. So I think just laser focus always, on networking. I think that's a big one for Trent.
Do you think he needs to do more of it, or he does that really well?
I think he does it well. I think he just needs to sharpen it up a bit as well. I think he really needs to, prospecting is the biggest challenge of this role. I mean, as Trent said, buying property or selling property, a lot of people can do it. Finding the clients, toughest thing. Building the consistency with the clients. So you sign up 3, you buy for 3. Where's the next 5? Where are they sitting in your pipeline? So building a really predictable pipeline is what this game's about. And so you've got to be networking every single day. You've got to be prospecting every single day.
Yeah, Trent.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ben. And I think for me, coming from a business that was fairly repeatable, and what I mean by that was walking the dogs. Those dogs generally, as a whole, came back every single week. Every single month, every single year, where Ben's right, you have to fight and fill that pipeline, and not just like a normal sales agent would. We're in an industry which is still relatively new to a lot of people out there, and you have to get out and network. And I don't like the word hustle. It's not necessarily a word that I'm comfortable with, but you do have to get out there and talk to people. A lot of people don't even know what a buyer's agent is, but once you start talking, they're like, wow, I've got a friend who could use your service. Here's their number. And then one thing leads to another, and they start coming through the system, and it may not be straight away, but yeah, you get that call to say, hey, I heard you now a buyer's agent, let's talk.
And we're crossing some boundaries here. Obviously, you might be listening to this podcast on the Smart Property Investment Podcast Network, and it's probably there with a whole bunch of other shows that we do. And most of the time, we chat about the stories of property investors. But in this emerging market, more and more people are being attracted to being a buyer's agent. So I want to make sure that people actually understand the reality of doing it, because you might have a passion for buying property, you might love property, you might think a great night in is a glass of wine and realestate.com. That's cool, but there is a big difference between being a property investor and being a professional buyer's agent. A passion for property, I think, is absolutely critical, but it's all the other stuff, which is often the unforeseen stuff, which is the hard stuff and the stuff that you need to get right to be successful. So we've touched a lot on that today. So we haven't really focused on the skills of being a buyer's agent. We've talked about the reality of being a buyer's agent and finding that work, and it's a theme that I think we'll keep at, Ben.
Absolutely, and just to touch on that, it's so true. Over the last 3 years, I have so many people calling me. I've got a portfolio of 8, 10, 12, 15, and I think I'll be a good buyer's agent. And I'm like, well, maybe not. You can't just say because you're a good investor that's going to constitute you being a good buyer's agent. So I think that's definitely a bit of a misconception out there. And so I think there definitely needs to be more education around what it's like to develop the skill set and whether it's actually a career path for you.
So if people want to stress test whether it's the right career path for them, can they? What's the website for the Buyer's Agent Institute?
It's www.buyersagentinstitute.com.
Okay, and you can see whatever you need there and work out whether it's a good enough career to pursue.
Yeah, and then you can get on the phone, have a chat, and just understand whether it's going to be something that's relevant or right for you.
Okay, and I think people like Trent who have gone down that path and made that career, and it's a significant call to put aside something and start something new. And my hat goes off to anyone who chooses small businesses as a career path, because it's bloody hard, and it's just not for today. It's hard all the time. It just gets different hard. So Trent, thanks for sharing your story, and I do appreciate it. I imagine if people want to chat to Trent, they can do so and track him down and find him and quiz him on how hard it is.
Absolutely. Look, they can contact me through my website, harrisiverson.com.au.
Okay.
More than happy to chat. Otherwise, look, come through Ben. We're often having a chat, so they'll get through, no problem. Happy to talk.
That's cool. Anything to conclude with, Ben, or I think we've done pretty well there?
I think Trent's done incredibly well. Take my hat off to him, and I just it's great to hear his story. It's awesome.
Nice one.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys. I really enjoyed it. And remember, this is Quit the 9 to 5, How to Turn Buying Property into a Career. It's episode 2 done. We're going to do 12, I think, are we? That's our plan, Ben?
That's the plan, yeah.
Okay. I'm sure if we find some more talented guests like Trent, it's just not going to be me and you talking either. We're going to get people in the studio to actually talk about the real world. So thanks, Trent. Really enjoy it. And
welcome.
Good
Thanks,
luck,
guys.
mate.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trent.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Quit the 9 to 5 with Ben Handler. For more advice on turning property buying into your career, head to www.buyersagentinstitute.com.au now.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature, does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs, and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.